Hey everybody, thank you once again for checking in. Well now, on this channel I must have shot hundreds of cameras, film ones, digital ones. Most of them I really loved, one or two I just didn't really get along with. But today I'm going to try and make the really difficult choice of choosing my favourite cameras. I don't know. Right, well, I think I've set myself quite a tough target there because it really has been very, very difficult, not even just to decide which are my favourite ones or one, but, you know, just to decide which might be potential favourites from them all, because I really do love them all. They're beautiful machines and I like the way they're made and constructed and so on, blah, blah, blah. However, I have selected a shortlist, but I've had to do that from three categories. So we've got a rangefinder category, we've got SLR cameras, and we've got point and shoots also. So it's a real feast of cameras today. So let's begin with the SLRs. All right, so what SLRs have I got? Where are they even? Here's somewhere. Oh, okay. Here's some SLRs that could potentially be my favourites. Could it be, perhaps, this Nikon FM? Now then, this has been on this show before. This is one of the most beautifully made cameras that I've ever used. In my opinion, it rivals the manufacture of any other camera, Leica's included. These Nikons really were beautifully engineered at that time. It's a beautiful looking thing. It's really simple. It's a camera, a light meter, some speeds, and an aperture mechanism on the lens. The meters through the viewfinder there, so this is an all manual model, and the simplicity is just magnificent. The ease of use of this camera, once you start to use this camera, I just find, I don't notice that it's manual. I just don't notice it. This is a camera you do become one with. All right, that's a cheesy thing, but it's true. You do become one with this camera. This is a tool that you really can bond with. So this could be, oh, hello, there's a picture of me. This could be my favorite SLR. It's an absolutely beautiful machine with fantastic lenses, fantastic manufacture, very simple thing, no complexity, and you just become one with it. It's a bit heavy, it's a bit big and heavy actually. That's all I could hold against it. And it's not sleek or svelte like some of the other SLRs of the time, where I don't think it has quite an agricultural appearance, really. I think. But anyway, that's just in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? So it could be this one, the Nikon FM. It could also be, this might be a controversial choice, but it could also be this one, the Canon something, EOS 3000N. Oh look, this is the N version, so it's even fancier than the 3000. And the reason why I like this camera is because it's end of the line production run. It's when the technology was at its best. It was state of the art, and it just didn't get any better than this. This is a very simple plastic bodied camera, but it's got auto exposure, which works really well. It's got aperture priority, shutter priority, and manual, and then pictures of flowers and stuff there. I don't know, modes you call those, I guess. But aperture priority, shutter priority, and manual, those are the ones you need, and program mode as well. So it's got any mode you might ever need. It's got a wide range of shutter speeds. It reads the automatic film speed off the cam that you put in there. And it takes all the Canon EF lenses. You can shoot modern Canon EF mount lenses on this camera as well. autofocus. This is an autofocus camera, all auto, state-of-the-art technology, and that is why I really like it. When I go out to shoot, if I've got a roll of film I've got to shoot, this camera is always in my mind. I don't always use it because I like to take the others out for a bit of a drive sometimes, keep them fresh and that, but this one is always in my mind because it's so easy to use. And, at the time, that was what everybody wanted, ease of use. And when you look at where we've got to now with digital cameras, you can see, what was driving where we've got to, and all the automation. Everybody wanted ease of use, auto exposure, auto focus. And to be honest, those are reasons why I love this camera. This is a great camera, state-of-the-art technology. No need to think. Stick the film in, push the button. There you go. That's candidate number 2. All right, what else have we got? Okay. I couldn't have a list of my favorite SLRs without this camera appearing on it. This is my Olympus OM2. I love the Olympus cameras. Why? They're just so small and beautiful, and that's what I appreciate about them. They're very, very well made. They're professional quality cameras of the time. There's a massive range of lenses for them. What's on here at the moment? 28mm 2.8. There it is. And these are beautiful lenses. I've always liked these Olympus lenses, and they were some of my first vintage lenses from major manufacturers quite a few years ago now when I started shooting mirrorless. They're just such lovely things, and the emphasis was on smallness, portability, and they're just so well made and nice to use. They're a bit quirky. They've got the shutter speeds set around this dial here, this concentric dial there. That's how you operate the shutter speeds. This one has aperture priority auto exposure, which I do appreciate. And of course you can use it manual if you want to. Beautiful, beautiful little camera. Probably the SLR that I've used the most, and just something that I absolutely love. So this is most certainly on the list for my favorite SLR. Finally, we've got another controversial choice, or what might seem to be perhaps a controversial choice. It's this one, the Canon T70. Now, this isn't quite end-of-the-line technology. This isn't quite state-of-the-art, but it comes from a time, this is an 80s camera, I think mid to late 80s. It comes from a time when microelectronics were getting really, really good. Auto exposure systems were getting really, really good. And all of the electronic stuff, the efficient electronic stuff that we've come to know today was beginning to come into its own with the first microcomputers available, microchip things available to technology companies on a wide scale. And this was one of the first uses in photography. This takes the Canon FD range of lenses. It's not autofocus. It was just a little too early for the autofocus bandwagon, but it's none the worse for that, really. It just takes a moment to focus. There's a beautiful viewfinder with a ground glass screen in there. I doubt you can actually see through it, but you might be able to. I don't know. And it's got some nice Kodacolor something or other. What's in it? Ultramax. It's got some Ultramax in it, and I'm going to be shooting that roll soon. You're going to be seeing what I've shot on that roll. But I like this camera because it, again, like the other Canon camera that I showed you, the 3000, it's nice and easy to use. You don't have to too much think about it. You can set it to aperture priority, and all you have to do is focus. It's auto wind, so you don't have to worry about winding on. One fault which I do find with this camera is that it winds the film back all the way into the Canon. I don't know about you, but whenever I try and fish film out of a can with one of those film fisher things, I can never do it. I've done it once. And that's all I've ever been able to do it. So if you develop your own film, this camera, you've got to make sure you switch it off or take out the battery while it's rewinding just before it gets to the end of that film. You've got to watch it count down the numbers there really, really carefully. Take the batteries out just before it gets to the end, and hopefully you'll be able to rescue the leader. That is one problem with this camera, and it's why I don't shoot a lot of black and white with it. I mostly shoot colour with this, because colour I just send into a lab on the rare occasions that I do shoot colour these days. But this is certainly one of my favourite SLRs, and deserves a worthy place on the list, if only for its styling. I mean, look at the styling of this thing. It's like a Bakelite 1950s radio or something. The styling's all over the place. It really didn't know where to go. We've got a little bit of classic SLR going on here, SLR prism shape. We've got a bit of 1950s going on here. We've got very much 1980s going on the top. So this is a bit of old, you know, it's a bit of a mashup, this one, in terms of styling, but nevertheless, I think it all hangs together pretty nicely. There we are. So, which one takes the crown? Which one is my favourite SLR? Well, I guess this is the moment I've got to choose, isn't it? And it's really not easy. Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be this one? Is it going to be the FE, the FM rather, which is ensconced over here? Or is it going to be the OM2? Well, I'll tell you which one it's going to be. It's this one. This is my favourite SLR, despite the lack of autofocus, despite it being a fairly early auto exposure system and not always perfect, I've got to admit. Despite all of that, this is my favourite SLR. It's just beautiful. The Olympus OM2. Right, like a flipping clown, I've just realised I should have done rangefinders first. That seems to be the natural order of things, that rangefinders should come first, but never mind. They're going to come second. Favourite rangefinders? Well, I've actually got quite a few rangefinders. I started photography with rangefinders with a Fed 4, which I used for, gosh, about 20 years, I think, with the same lens, an Industar 61. It served me very well. It never let me down. It was a reliable camera to use. Very simple 1930s technology, all manual, but with a light meter built in. So nice and easy to get the measure of. However, I've had quite a few rangefinders since then. A Fed 2, a Fed 3, Zorki 3, Zorki 1, Zorki 4, Kiev 4A, I think, the one without the rangefinder on the top, and then a Kiev 3, the one with the rangefinder on the top. So first of all, I'm going to talk about my favourite Russian rangefinder. And I've narrowed it down. It's not the Fed 4. The Fed 4 is a nice camera, but it's not that. It's not the Fed 3. The Fed 3 is a nice camera, especially the really quirky, odd-looking one, but it's not that. It's not the Fed 2 with its long base rangefinder, and it's not the Zorki 4. The possibles that it could be are two just stunningly made old things. Here are the two possible favourite rangefinders, Russian rangefinders from my collection. This is the Kiev 3, I think. This is a Kiev 3, or possibly a very early 4. It's from 1950 something. I think 1955. Yeah, 55 this one is from. It's a direct copy of the Contax 2, I believe. Do correct me if I'm wrong, but the Contax 2. I don't think it's been used very much. It still has very much of a new-ish feeling, and it all works nicely. And it's got such a silent shutter. Just incredible. It's such a beautiful thing. It's got the Jupiter 8M lens on the front here to mount onto the Contax Kiev mount. You can focus by doing this because you've got to grip it like, what's the Kiev there? That's the right grip to use one of these cameras with. So you focus here and shoot here with this finger. The light meter incredibly still works on this camera, and I think it's accurate actually. If I can open it. Yeah, there we are. I think it's actually quite accurate the last time I checked it. So this is a beautiful thing. It looks like a battleship, and it's almost as heavy. It's got chrome and glass and this lovely black leatherette body covering, and it's clearly better made than most of the Russian rangefinders, and certainly far better made than the later Kievs. Look at this script here. We've got, is this a Latin? Oh no, we've got Latin and Cyrillic script on here. Cyrillic on the top, Latin at the bottom. I need to put some more black paint in there. It doesn't seem to have fared too well over the years. Not sure where that's gone. But that would bring this camera up lovely. A little bit of black paint in there. There's the top deck, all very technical for 1955. Yeah, so this is one of my potentials for favourite Russian rangefinders, and the other is this one, the stunning Zorki 3. This is a Leica thread mount derived camera. This was, let me think how it went now. So the Soviet photographic industry first copied the Leica 2, direct copies of the Leica 2. There were Fed and Zorki copies made of that. We then had the Zorki 2, which was a very similar thing, but a little bit higher and a bit ugly, actually. Not a very nice looking camera. And then we had this tour de force, which is the Zorki 3. And this was the Russian photographic industry's take on modernizing the LTM rangefinder. We've still got a knob wind going on. We don't have a lever wind yet. And we've still got that same Leica type shutter with its characteristic clack and click. We've got the extra finder on here just to make it look extra teched up, but of course we don't actually need it with this lens. This is a 50mm lens, so we don't need a different finder. This finder is 4 50mm lenses. No frame lines in these cameras. You do have to put one of these finders on top if you want to change lenses, but the viewfinder is very big and very bright, and it covers more than the area of the shot slightly, so you can see what's going on at the edges of your shot as well. Far better than the awful little viewfinder on Fed cameras, which works well but is tiny, and yeah, tiny. So which is it to be? Which is it to be? Is it the Kiev? I'm pretty sure this is a 3. Do correct me if I'm wrong. Or is it the Zorki 3? Which is it to be? Well, I'll tell you. It's this one. It's the Zorki 3. This wins because it's more practical and I find it easier to use. And let me take this off. And it's better looking. That's a beautiful piece of industrial design. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Look at the proportions. Look at the height to which this rangefinder housing comes measured against its width. Look at the ratio of the height to the drop here. Look at this little curve here. This is beautiful industrial design and a real advance, a genuine advance on the on the Leica 2 3, etc. Zorki 1, Fed 1 design. You know, the original Leica rangefinder. These were based on a genuine advance. We've got slow speeds. We've got combined rangefinder viewfinder. And it's just much easier to use than the Kiev. The Kiev is I find anyway, I apologise to any Kiev users out there if you use and love your camera, but I find them just a hulking great thing that I have to think about, and I have to think to myself, right, what's the right way to hold this camera? What's the right way to shoot it? Oh gosh, how do I release the focus lock? Because there's a lock on the focus at one end. And it's better looking. So for all those reasons, this is my favourite Soviet rangefinder. But that's not the end of the rangefinder story, because I've got some other rangefinders, 2 other rangefinders. I've got 2 Leica rangefinders which are scattered hereabouts somewhere. The first one, this is lovely. This is a little Zorki. This is a little Leica 2, one of the original Leicas 2. You can see that, you might have seen this camera before if you watch this channel, but you can see now that much of the black paint has been, well, I think just scratched away, to be honest with you. And it's been repainted at least once, because what's on it now is a matte black finish, and they didn't have that from the factory. They did have a shiny black finish on there. It looks almost like a crackly finish that's been put on it. I don't know. But whether that's original paint, whether it's paint that's been replaced, I don't know. This camera wears its years well. Right, how old is this camera? I'm not very good at sums. 1932, that's 91 years old. This camera is now 91 years old, and I think it wears those 91 years well. It's really simple. Let's forget its age and all its fancy Leica name. This is a really, really simple, easy camera to use. There are no slow speeds. You've got how many shutter speeds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. From 1/20th to 1/500th of a second. You can see them on there. I don't know if is that clear? Can we focus on there? Can we focus on there, mate? There we go. So we've got 7 shutter speeds plus Z, which is the same as bulb. Z for sight, which means time, but it's the same as the B setting. Just keep your finger on it and the shutter stays open. So it's really, really simple. If you want a long exposure, set it to Z and keep your finger on the button for a bit. You know, that's long exposure with this camera. And it works. You know, it works. If you just vibe right with the light, and you get the feeling in your fingers, that might sound a bit crazy, but it does work. You can do long exposures and get them pretty accurate with this camera. It takes any L39 mount lens, which is brilliant. It makes a click sound like cameras are supposed to do. In fact, it makes a really loud click sound like Leica cameras are not supposed to do. So I think it wants a little bit of servicing and lubrication, etc. But this is possibly my favourite rangefinder. And what's the other candidate for my favourite rangefinder? Well, I'll show you. It's something very similar. It's this. It's the Leica 3, same as the Leica 2, but with a slow speed mechanism added. And I don't know, this is going to be a matter of aesthetics, isn't it? Which of these cameras looks the best? Or maybe it isn't going to be a matter of aesthetics. I don't know. Anyway, I do love this camera. It has, what's it got that the other one doesn't? Well, it's slow speeds, already mentioned that. I think it looks more technical on the top deck. That must have looked really high tech in 1936 when this camera was from. I've got my beautiful old Scimitar 50mm f2 on here. And this is a beautiful, beautiful lens, which I'm never going to get rid of. This lens is an absolute keeper. And of course this camera has the silver look, the chrome look, which the other one doesn't. And I think this one looks a little bit better, actually. I think in aesthetic terms, this one's a little bit better. One thing I should mention about these cameras, they've both got collapsible lenses. So if you want to put one in your pocket, if you've got a big pocket, it'll just about fit in there. So, which is my favourite rangefinder of all? Would you like to know? I'll tell you. It's this one. It's this one. Because it's so simple. It's about the simplest you can go in 35mm photography. The only other thing would be to take out the rangefinder, and if you did that, I wouldn't be able to focus. I'd have to guess. This is about as simple as it gets. 7 shutter speeds, a box, a lens, a button to press. There's nothing to get in the way. There's just nothing to get in the way. And the fact that this camera is 90 years old and it's still going strong and it's still, you know, got those speeds pretty much intact and it's still doing what it was supposed to do on the day it was made, that is actually a constant source of amazement and joy for me. That brings me genuine joy, although that might sound a bit silly. So for those reasons, this is my favourite rangefinder. Well done, little Leica 2. You can have the prize. Okay, don't worry. Calm yourselves. We're getting near the end. Final category is point and shoot. Let's have a look at point and shoots. Well, firstly, what have we got in the point and shoot category? Is this, the beautiful little Olympus Trip 35. This is a fantastic little camera. It's very much of its time. It's sort of a mid to late 70s, early 80s camera. These sold in their millions and millions and millions. They were advertised by no less a photography guru than Mr. David Bailey himself, who on the adverts professed his love for them. But I have heard, this may not or may not be true, that behind the scenes he got so annoyed with the constant breakdowns that kept happening to them, he threw more than one of them at a wall. But I don't know how true that is, just a story. This one might seem to confirm that story, because every so often it will, like there, refuse to fire. And oh no, it ain't gonna fire no more. Ah, there we go. So this one definitely needs a rebuild, restore, and that is a fault that can happen to them. They do get sort of sticky shutters. But I should say these are not unreliable cameras. I've used these for years sometimes, and they haven't gone wrong. They've been at least as reliable as other cameras. And there is somebody who actually restores these and will sell you a fully restored one for a really fair price. I can't remember what that price is actually, but I do remember that it was a really fair price for what is essentially a brand new film camera. Very much of its time. It's got this big electric eye design, which must have looked really, really teched up back in the day. In fact, it did look really teched up back in the day, because I saw it back in the day. I must stop using that phrase. It's really simple to use. It's electronic automatic exposure. It's a point and shoot. You can point it at things, and sometimes it shoots at things. It's very easy zone focusing. However, this is a camera that can photograph only pictures of mountains or people. No, it's not. That was a joke. I'm sorry. That was a joke. I'm told they can be terribly effective. Very simple zone focusing is the point that I should really have made, isn't it? Nice and easy to use. The distance scale is marked in feet and meters should you wish to go manual, and you actually can go manual on this camera just by turning the inner dial in the one right next to the lens there, and that allows you to change your your aperture rather. So a nice little camera, very neat, very small, very pocketable, very much of its time. Oh, and it gives you square bokeh as well. Yeah, little, you know, bokeh balls from point light sources are square because the aperture, when it closes down, sort of forms a square. So that's a kind of a quirky look you'll get from images from this camera. However, that may not be my favourite point and shoot. My favourite point and shoot maybe this one. This is the Konica autofocus something or other, C35 MF, and that's a curiously named camera because it's actually an autofocus camera. It's not a manual focus camera, as the MF might suggest. So that's a bit cheeky, isn't it? It's an autofocus camera. It's auto exposure. It's got this beautiful 38mm f2.8 Konica Hexanon lens. There are few better lenses, if any, in the business than Konica Hexanon lenses. They were beautiful. If you like sharp lenses, these are the ones to get. If you like beautiful, rich colours, these are the ones to get. There are very, very few lenses better than a Konica. Stop rattling. Better than a Konica Hexanon. So it's great in that regard. It's got a built-in flash, so you can flash away to your heart's content. It takes, I think, I'm pretty sure, it takes HP7. Or, they used to be called HP7 AA. Yeah, look, AA batteries sitting in there. So this is a camera you can use anywhere in the world. No problem ever getting batteries. There will never be a time when batteries for this camera are not available. So, you know, that is a real plus. It's got classic camera looks. It looks like a classic camera, and it really works nicely as well. So this is definitely on my list. Third and final on my list of my favourite points and shoots is this one. The Nikon L35AF, which I've just realised is actually a lighter camera than the Konica. The Konica is quite a lot heavier camera. I wonder if that means there's more metal in it. I wonder if that means that the Konica's better made. I don't know. The Nikon has a reputation for being well made, certainly, and I've never had any problem with it. There it is. It's got real 80s, early 80s styling, 83, 84, 85 styling. That would have been very, very groovy back in the day. If such a thing as groovy existed in the 80s, probably found a different word by then. This too has an f2.8 lens. It's a Nikon one this time, unsurprisingly. This is a 35mm. So as far as focal lengths go, I would definitely prefer the Konica because that's got a 38, and my favourite focal length for street is 40mm. But you know, it's only 5mm, 3mm, so 35 isn't too much different. There's the top deck, very nice and simple. Did I show you the Konica top deck? I don't think I did, but that's nice and simple as well. Both really, really simple. Pretty much just all you get is an on-off switch. Switch it on, press to focus. Now, the really nice thing about this camera that I've not seen in any other point and shoot, it's autofocus by the way, I've not seen in any other point and shoot, is that inside the viewfinder you get a little needle. You won't be able to see that, I don't suppose, but you do get a little needle which tells you how far or distant you are focused at. And no, it's not actually visible. It only comes on when you switch on and there's a film loaded, but there's a little needle in the window, so it'll tell you if you're focused on something pretty near to you, something in the middle distance, or something quite far away. So you know where your point of focus is, and you know if you focused on the right thing or not. A very, very capable little camera, auto load, auto rewind, and importantly, and you know, whoever designed this camera, if you're watching this, I don't know how to thank you, because you made sure, whoever designed this camera made sure that when that roll rewinds automatically, it doesn't go back into the can fully. The lip, the tongue of the film, the leader of the film stays out of the can. So if you do your own developing, you got the film. You don't have to wrestle with one of those blooming awful fishing type things to pull the film out of the can. So congratulations to whoever thought of that. Right, favourite point and shoot. Is it this one? Is it this one? Or is it this one? I'll tell you which one it is, shall I? It's this one. It's the Nikon L35AF, the most capable, the most competent point and shoot camera, film camera rather, that I've ever shot. It's great, it's easy, it's light, it's convenient, it's auto, and everything works fine. It never seems to miss a trick, it never seems to get the exposure wrong, it never seems to get the focus wrong. So well done, Nikon. The L35AF is the one to have, certainly for me. So there we are, 3 glorious winners. Here they are. 1, 2. Where's 2 gone? Here's 2. I'm going to start that again. So 3 glorious winners. Here they are again. 1, 2, and if I had 3 hands, which I don't, 3. There we are. 3 beautiful, glorious cameras and several worthy runners up. This really was a difficult choice, and if I had to, you know, pick a favourite camera of all time, very, very difficult, because they're all really nice and I do love them all. But anyway, hopefully that was an interesting stroll through the film camera collection. So I guess that's it from me for now. Many, many thanks to subscribers for your subscriptions and your support. That is really appreciated. If you've enjoyed this show and you've not already subscribed, please do chuck us a sub. That would be really very much appreciated. Many, many thanks also go to patrons for all of your support. Thanks to patrons old, patrons new. Thank you for all that support. That is a genuine and heartfelt thanks. If you like the work that this channel does and you think that you would like to support it, you can do that very easily over at www.patreon.com/Zenography, and you can do it for as little as $1 of your Earth dollars per month. And if you're not doing anything too important at this time, next week, why not tune in for another session of Zenography. See you then. Cheerio all.